A child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. What is an example of this that you've seen or experienced firsthand? I used to be into amateur radio after a short stint in the Army Cadets. There was one guy, in the East Midlands, who was one of the adult instructors. He was always telling us about amateur radio, and would hand out old /cheaper pieces of tech he'd tried out and wasn't keeping. Anyway, he was a little weird, overly friendly, with adults, never had any bad vibes around the kids, and obviously had some social anxiety which he was compensating for. Personally, I suspect he was on the autistic spectrum, but who knows? After I left the cadets and went to uni, I stayed in touch on Facebook. We were in the same Facebook group for amateur radio hobbyists. He always liked to do things by the book, and instilled in us the importance of being responsible and socially conscious with our radio use. He was the same on Facebook, reminding people that Mrs. Miggins on her £10 handset wouldn't know about transmission power, and squelch, etc. He mentioned in passing to a new member the importance of only using the public and licensed channels, kind of like CB radio in the US, on the correct, very low, power setting of half a watt. He mentioned it was because Mrs. Miggins trying to reach her kid in the next street wouldn't understand the idea that she could hear you but couldn't reach you to ask you to be quiet a minute. He was correct here, and it's also a criminal offense to transmit at higher power on these frequencies, even though it's not enforced. Anyway, this got Sumion's back up, and he was kicked from the group for preaching. After unsuccessfully asking to be let back in, he set up a larger antenna in his back garden, set up a super fancy aerial atop it, with a 30-watt transmission system. This is really quite powerful. He now turns this on for several hours a day on whatever channels the radio club /group are using to teach them the importance of good etiquette. This means that nobody can use certain frequencies for hours at a time, as it just sounds like someone is having a one-way conversation on air. He could probably get arrested, but that doesn't seem to bother him at all. I once attended a birthday party with a bouncy castle. The birthday kid and their friends kicked the younger sibling and his friend out, so they unplugged it and watched everyone's dismay as it deflated. Way to go, Mason. Badass moves for a 12-year-old. I worked in an office for a Fortune 500. One of our long-time team members, G, worked as a level 2 employee for quite a while. She was good enough to be a level 3 or level 4 employee but never took the offer because she was a single mom, relied on public transportation, etc. Her friend, P, started at the same time she did and was a level 3, working up to a level 4. P and G were all good, until P discovered that G made more than P because she was constantly getting merit raises and performance bonuses. One day, G made an honest mistake. Our client just switched to a different protocol for billing and she accidentally did it the old way. It was a no harm, no foul situation but P went to the level employees and senior management and suggested that G be fired. They all went to HR who said that while there was no valid reason to fire her, they could move her to a shittier team that would basically guarantee her failure. G realized what was happening and secured another job. We were going to be off for 4 days for Christmas, and G quit Thursday by leaving an after-hours voicemail. G knew that the message wouldn't be received until Monday morning, so she sent out an email to the entire building. Time to be sent at 11:59 a.m. Christmas Eve. The email detailed how P was having an affair with her Bill while her husband was deployed, how one senior manager took this job because he was fired for embezzlement and lost his CPA license, and how one of our male level 3 employees requested a transfer because our married department manager was sexually harassing him. We got in at 8, HR and it got in at 9. It was a shit-o Monday morning. Quite a few people quit that day, and to think, it all could have been avoided. Edit 1. Thanks for the award. Edit 2. I've run into G and P since then. G is thriving. She got a stern phone call from the company and they tried to withhold her last paycheck but that was it. P is, well, a little more humble now. She was going through some serious shit at the time, and while that doesn't excuse any of the shit that she did, I think the letter was a wake-up call that she needed to fix her life. Edit 3. Level 3 employee is doing well. He quit a year after for a better opportunity. This could be applied to my soon-to-be ex-husband. He has mommy issues. He has daddy issues. He has sibling issues. Basically, his parents divorced when he was in grade school and no one really ever parented him from that point forward. His dad left. His mom, in my opinion, has no sense of accountability and can never be wrong about anything, so not exactly a great role model. She restarted her career after the divorce and left him in the dust. My husband never really healed from the aftermath of his parents' divorce. I can understand. My own parents' divorce negatively affects me to this day in some ways. Though my parents are the polar opposite of his. They are extremely involved and giving. I think the more my parents involved themselves in our lives, the more he realized what a parent was supposed to look like. When our baby was born and my parents worked to be helpful and bond with him, I think it almost showed a giant magnifying glass on the abandonment issues he had buried and run from his whole life. He cracked this year, ran away with someone, threw me and my loving family away, but, briefly, got the attention he was yearning for from both his shitty absentee parents in his time of crisis. That didn't last too long. He burnt our marriage and the life we had built over plus years to the ground. He felt so sad and wanted me to feel as badly as he did, though any warmth he enjoyed from doing so quickly dissipated. He regrets everything. Update. We have been separated for months, but within the past 6 weeks he's been trying to open the door. I've been patient with him and encouraging while he tries to find the right specialists. He called me tonight to tell me he's back with her. So, I guess he doesn't really regret anything. I need to redact that last sentence, minus wouldn't want to be inaccurate. And just for I was still in denial about having to get a divorce. It's stupid, but I wanted to work through some of this even if we couldn't stay married through therapy. Hold me accountable. Reddit. I'm 100% done. I work with kids who have mental health issues. Many of them have attempted suicide, ran away, self-harm, or have an addiction of some kind by their mid-teens. They always have some kind of traumatic family life that's pushed them to that problem. One thing we see again and again is the poor kid who comes in after the parent/guardian has belittled them and told them what a piece of garbage they are for years. Eventually the kid starts acting out, which the adult uses as proof that he/she was right all along about the kid being an awful piece of shit. One kid I worked with was in and out of treatment programs for a couple of years and had exactly this kind of parents. Father was always on the road driving a truck and checked out when he was at home. Mom was personality disordered and extremely emotionally and verbally abusive. One day, while his father was on the road, this boy murdered his mother by bludgeoning her to death with a hammer while she slept in. Then he kept her body in the house for a few days, abusing the corpse before stuffing her remains into the trash can and leaving them on the curbside for pickup. Saw this happen with my lit brother. He has autism, and even though he was diagnosed around the age of 8, a lot of people didn't know how to deal with him, or didn't want to take the effort to learn how to deal with him. This includes teachers, other children's parents, and even one of our grandmothers. What made it even worse is that I was the child prodigy who would get nothing but amazing grades and started getting into art at a very young age and being really good at it. I got all the praise, had he basically got nothing. My parents didn't do this on purpose. I would steal the spotlight. So he just started getting in trouble just so he would get any attention. He started fires, vandalized stuff, and even from a young age he would go to the main road to throw rocks at cars and such. If he didn't get caught, he would tell my parents what he did himself. There's actually a video of him at my birthday where he told our mom he wanted to show her something, only to flip over a very large container of laundry detergent when she arrived with the camera. He's 25 now, and thankfully he has a really nice girlfriend that actually helps him get over the whole negative attention is also attention thing. My uncle. He was always the black sheep of the family, But turned out he had been carefully planning his future from the start. He got a full ride to his dream college, got a really well-paying job, got married and now has a child who is a few months old. My grandparents, his parents, always thought he was a disappointment as he was their only son. He knew this, and they verbally abused him for a while about how he never lived up to their expectations. Turns out, his parents, and all of his sisters ran themselves into quite a bit of debt, and he only found out as he was nearly done with college. They came to my uncle for help after he found employment, and he basically gave my whole family the finger and said for them to help themselves. I'm literally the only one of any of my cousins or siblings who bothered contacting him years after this whole ordeal. At the time I was too young to understand what the fuck was happening, let alone travel by myself. So I contacted him via Facebook Messenger, and his wife is a lovely woman. His daughter is so cute and gorgeous, and he is still the same strong, kind-hearted man that I remember. My parents know I'm on contact with him, and they just don't care. I'll be staying over at their house for a little while next week, and I'm so glad I was able to meet my little cousin. Edit. I didn't expect this to blow up. Well, I know some of you guys are saying this doesn't exactly comply or fit the quote, but it was the best story / experience I had that fit the quote, so I thought there wouldn't be much harm in sharing it. Anyway, feel free to ask questions. I'd be more than happy to answer them. Edit 2. Thank you kind stranger for the Reddit gold. I'll be sure to pay it forward. Subscribe, like and comment if you hate outros, begging you to subscribe, like and comment.